Welcome to Getting Past the Premium, everybody. And in today's episode, we have Kevin Kraft, who is the marketing director with the Independent Insurance Agents of Nebraska. And they are our state association, the Big I, and we're excited to have him kind of talk through the role of an association within an insurance agency and broader in the industry. And so enjoy the episode. Look forward to it.
Welcome to the Getting Past the Premium podcast, where we focus on breaking down risk management problems bit by bit until we find a solution. If you would like to discuss anything you hear on GPP with us, please reach out using the links in the description. Enjoy today's episode.
Welcome on, man.
Thanks for having me. This is great. Beautiful conference room you guys got set up here.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I think this is going to be kind of a fun conversation about, particularly the IIAN, and then that broader conversation about what can associations do, what do they do, what do they bring to us in the industry, why is it good to be involved in an association. So, I don't know, maybe give your background and then kind of who the Independent Insurance Agents of Nebraska and obviously
For
the
sure.
larger Big I are.
Yeah, and I, like most insurance professionals, got in it because I stumbled into it.
You didn't plan that?
No, not really. It wasn't in my playbook.
Yeah.
But when I graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln 2013, had a finance econ major ready to take on the world. And I didn't know what that meant. So I just applied at a bunch of different places, logistics firms, banks, trucking outfits, insurance companies. And I applied for what is called an underwriting role. And they kindly asked me when I was interviewing for that what an underwriter did, and I had no idea. And so they said, you talk a lot. You need to be in a marketing role. So I started with an outfit called Ringwalt in Leashy, based here in Omaha. They're part of the National Indemnity group of companies, Berkshire Hathaway home state companies in that. And so my job was pretty much to go around to independent agents and try to find all those risks that no one else wanted to write. So your new venture truckers, your repo operations, people that were spreading manure on fields. So just things that were pretty outlandish that most of your insurance companies say no thank you to. I said, please, I want more of that. So I did that for about 7 or 8 years. It moved me out to Denver, Colorado. I helped them open an office out there. So that just kind of expanded on the experience. Colorado was fun, had a really good time, lot to do. Buying a house is not always the easiest thing out there. So my wife and I, 2019, decided to move back to Nebraska. We're both from here. And that is when I started with the Association Independent Insurance Agents of Nebraska. And probably like most of your listeners right now, they're like, what does an association do?
I'm guessing it's a lot of them.
Yeah, even some members maybe have that question too. So from time to time, it's tough because we do a lot. We have members that are single person insurance agencies, all the way up to the 100+ person insurance agencies, and all those different sizes have different needs. And so as an association that has those types of members, you want to be valuable to every business within
segment,
that. And that's something that I think every association kind of struggles with is who are we and how are we going to serve every single member's needs? And I think ultimately is you got to realize you can't serve every single specific need, but you just have to find what you're good at. And so what I'd say we help our members do is they're good at selling insurance and advising and protecting their clients' assets. What we do is help the agencies kind of on the back end. A lot of our agents aren't specialty in hiring and training. HR is not always their forte. Succession planning, just kind of those things that always aren't on the front of your mind when you're maybe starting a business is, I got to hire people and I got to have payroll and benefits and all that fun stuff. They want to get in it because they want to help people. And so we kind of help them on the back end. Well, and over time that's evolved. Education's obviously a big thing that we do. We want our members to be the best independent agents out there. And so through that, we have a lot of webinars, in-person classes, conventions that we invite people to. And really what that breeds is not just informative members, kind of gives you bigger than yourself. You see other people that kind of walk in the same shoes as you, but you might not see them on a daily basis. And so we really just try to bring people together, and we do it in a variety of ways.
Totally. Well, and collaboration is such an important part of our industry, especially right now. I think with all of the M&A that's going on, I think it's just becoming more important for those truly independents to collaborate together. So we were talking what we call the show before the show always, the conversations before we get on about your perspective even in the industry over the last 5 or 6 years on the agent's perspective of the association, kind of going from like you're part of something bigger, that collaboration, to almost that ROI. That was curious to me. You talk more a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think historically, doctors and accountants and insurance agents and all different professions, they join these associations because it added a level of credibility. You could add it to your business cards or your signs and kind of show your customers that, hey, I'm legit. I'm not just a fly-by-night operation. And I mean, that's carried over a lot, but there's just a new way of thinking in the business world, and not that it's right or wrong, but people are a little bit more cost sensitive of where my money's going and what am I getting back on that ROI. And so when they look at an association, they say, okay, you're going to charge me dues. What do I get back from that? And I think the historical answer was, well, you're part of a group bigger than yourselves, a network. You get to build these relationships and foster them. And I think to a certain level of people, that still matters because, I mean, honestly, insurance, any business relationships are really what drive it more than anything, and we can still provide that. But we've had to kind of look at ourselves in the mirror and say, what are we offering our members that's going to, when they're writing a dues check and they're renewing, that they're saying, hey, this is why I do this. This is what's important to me. And we found that there's a variety of reasons. It might be insurance programs we offer. It might be our conventions. Some people like to go to our golf outings. I don't know if you know that. Insurance agents like to golf sometimes. But we kind of we want to make sure we're not spreading ourselves too thin, so we're not good at any one thing. We want to have our core staples of what are we good at, because we realize that now today when an agency starts, they have other options. There's market access providers, there's aggregators that they can go to, there's other associations, or they can try to battle it out by themselves. So I think kind of like our own members have maybe a field competition from other places where they haven't always felt competition with those direct writers and carriers going direct, or new online agencies where there's no face, it's just Google it. Yep. We want to make sure that we're giving our members those core functions of, they can look at themselves and say, this is why I'm a member. Or if they're talking to a non-member, they can say, this is why.
No, totally. I think that, and you guys do a great job, specifically at Nebraska, but then the national chapter of kind of tuning into those agencies and just discerning what, we need that we can't always get at our size or whatnot. And you're in the office of a lot of agents. Pre-COVID, you were actually in the office, yes. But you talk to a lot of agents, right, about just what's going on in their agencies, what they could use to help them grow or whatever their goals are. And I'm just curious, so we talk on the whole show is about transitioning this industry, from just selling the insurance product to helping your clients understand it more, being more of that advisor to your clients. Yep. And I'm just curious if what you hear out in the industry about kind of that shift, and if there is that shift, people want to and see the need to go that route, and just what you're hearing kind of out in the industry as a whole. I think if an agency just wants to sell insurance and wake up, go to bed, and that's all they do, you can probably still get by doing that today. But for an agency that truly wants to grow and be a bigger member of the community, they definitely need to take on more of a risk advising approach. You need to have a holistic viewpoint of, what is my client doing? How are they doing it? What components make it up? And are we protecting all those different facets? Because I think probably it was really easy back in the day for people to say, oh, we'll get you some general liability, some property. Yeah, we're good. And we'll talk to you at renewal. But in today's age, there's just things come up on a daily basis, and people are exposed to a lot more because of social media and news, and you see all these things going on, and then you just sprinkle on a pandemic on top of it. People, they feel not lost, but they need somebody. They want somebody they can rely on. They want somebody that they can trust. And I think
That's why independent agents are really well suited for this, because I think even though you see these new companies popping up in these online agencies, and you see all these commercials online of say 15% and they only gave me three wheels. Yeah. And the carriers,
some of them are funny at least.
I like Progressives. Your parents don't turn into your parents' ones, because as a new homeowner, I totally see myself like going up to people in Menards being like, oh, that's a good screwdriver.
Yeah.
You should buy that one. But there's some other ones that don't sit as well with me as those ones. But even though there's increasing competition coming from all those people, like I said earlier, it's relationships. And I think there's studies I've even found millennials, even though they're more likely to go online to shop for their insurance and might not go through the typical mediums, they ultimately still want a advisor, somebody that they can call, text, email, chat with, however they want to do it. But they ultimately want somebody that they can turn to and ask a question to. They might not turn to you every single time, but they still want to know they have you in their back pocket, that you're going to look out for what's the best for them. Those online carriers and online agencies can't do that. They'll direct you to an 800 number or a chat box, and then you spend time on hold, or you're typing to the chat box your question and it's not understanding it. Mm-hmm. And people see that. I mean, there is a convenience factor to being able to go online to do it versus some other ways, but ultimately they're not licensed in insurance. They might understand what a deductible is, but that might be as far as their insurance knowledge goes. And so they need somebody that can actually sit down and say, this is an exposure. You need to transfer this, you need to avoid this, or if you're going to do this, you got to retain it because no one else is going to insure you doing it. And there's not a ton of people they can turn to that can give them that advice. So as things have changed and the world's kind of becoming what it is, I think independent agents are really well suited to take it on, because they have that information that people want, and they have that human element that I think, if anything, last year or last 18 months or whatever has shown that is really important to us, and we do want that human factor.
Yeah, it's interesting how the pandemic, just brings to light a lot of this stuff. And I was glad you said the studies about even millennials and some of that. I mean, I think we talk a lot. InsurTech is a threat to the industry. Mm-hmm. Whatever the wave of InsurTech was starting 4, 5, 6 years ago, it seemed like it was going to be the death of the independent agent, And now I think people have realized that, to your point, people want the ability to have information at their fingertips. They want to be able to walk through it. But at the end of the day, a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people still want that person to validate, hey, here's what I'm thinking, but I don't understand this fully. Yeah. So can you help me understand this?
Totally.
And that goes everywhere from, a personal lines buyer to a business owner. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of that out there.
Well, even more to those businesses and people that own multiple properties. Yes, if you just have a Honda sedan that you're driving around and you have an apartment that you're renting, yeah, you probably can get by on your own knowledge and going online and finding it. But when you own a home, when you have a family, when you own multiple properties, when you own a business, yeah, those companies online might say that they can help you with those, but does that cost savings on the front end really help you on the back end when bad things happen or when claims come up? You need that person there that kind of made sure you had all your ducks in a row, because a lot of times with those online raters, it's, I didn't read that fine print, which is... That's what the independent agents are there for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's spot on.
Fine print is my favorite thing to read, actually. It's my light reading at nighttime is fine print. I was also going to say, you brought up a good point about the InsurTech vendors. I think what they found out is they came in, they were going to break down the doors off this insurance business, and they were going to take all these clients and they were going to show them how to do it. They've all found out. They're like, we need these agents because we don't understand the stuff that they're talking about and telling their clients. We might give them a tool to put in their tool belt, but we can't be the end all tool. We need somebody in there to kind of be that medium to those clients, and you can use us to CRM or quote online or have a mobile app or something, which are important to have nowadays.
No, I couldn't agree more. I think, but that's the advising part, the relationship part. And again, that's where we go to is, that's the part that is going to be the most difficult for InsurTech to replace over time. I mean, again, I think we got to be careful to think that that's always going to be the case as you described it, because Amazon, name the Google, whoever, they're really good at this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're going to get it figured out.
Yeah.
But why can't we be the advisor that says, hey, the Amazon insurance product is the right product for you.
Yep.
Go buy it.
Yep. You got a Tesla.
It's easy, it's slick. Yeah. Get Tesla's insurance,
Yep.
you know. But again, we have to reposition ourselves in the client's mind to be able to do that.
Yeah. And it can't be insurance might have been viewed as a transactional thing. Hey, here's your quote. This is how much it's going to cost. Here's the check. Okay, see you in about a year. We'll do it all again. Whereas that's kind of what we were talking about, that day to day. You just never know what's going to pop up. Who's going to walk into somebody's business? Who's going to ask them a question that they weren't ready for? Yeah. Or when something unfortunate happens, you're not a transaction at that point. You're a relationship and that they can rely on. So hopefully wherever the world takes us, they're going to understand that a computer can't do everything a human can do. Not quite yet.
Not quite yet, yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always relate it back to the financial services industry, that side of the industry, and the transition that's made. It's the same conversation, right? Now everybody can get onto whatever they want, get every ounce of information that they want, but having that person to help advise them through that conversation is where not all of the industry, but a lot of the industry has shifted, right?
Yeah, I mean, you have so many tools eventually that you need somebody that can just help from a strategy standpoint, sort through what tools most economical and makes the most sense for you.
I wish I had a financial advisor when I got the bright idea to open a little portfolio. One might call it that in February of 2020. That was a really good time to open something because I bought all these stocks and I was like, oh, I can do this. I can juggle all this. And then I just slowly watched it just downturn until all that money I put in there almost went away. And it did come back a little bit, but it did age me a little bit. And I realized maybe I'm not the best person to be doing this and left up to my own devices.
It's no different than the risk management industry.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can manage money in a great market.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all heroes. It's when the market goes down 30% and you're 18 months into retirement that we figure out what kind of backbone and plan and strategy you have. And you're probably going to want to call somebody if you're a client. You know, if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to, and you're in that position, you just want somebody to tell you that it's going to be okay and help you and walk you through it. And it's no different than, think of the anxiety that people have around other big issues in their lives, right? I mean, your kid's sick and you don't know what's wrong with them. Like, Google doesn't work. You want a doctor to tell you that your kid's going to be okay. Or your building burns down. You don't want to get online and read the fine print that's like, I think I'm all right. You want to call somebody and have them be like, dude,
reassure me.
We took care of you. You're going to be okay. So I mean, that's when your money's made as an advisor. It's walking through strategy, putting the backbone together, but then being there when we all know, like, bad stuff happens in the world.
No.
Is that the shift you were talking about, kind of seeing a lot of, or is it, or I should say, are you seeing that shift in agents that you're talking to, or is it something that, like you mentioned, like you feel like should happen, you know? It
definitely should happen. And I think there are a lot of them that are trying to take on that role, but it's hard. You can't be an expert in everything. And as an insurance agent, I mean, you see a lot of maybe those Main Street mercantile businesses, a bakery, a watch shop, those, I mean, that you kind of get into a groove with and you're like, I kind of got this. But then you might get somebody in your network come to you and say, hey, I got an airplane. Hey, I run this hospital. Hey, I do this. And you're like, hey, I want to help you, but I need some help with this too. And so I think that's a hesitancy on some people's part is, oh no, I got to learn something new again. But for the people that are willing to take the time to do it, I mean, the future is yours to hold. But there are some people that they're just not quite comfortable because it takes another level to become an advisor kind of. I just got the ARM designation, and I mean that's kind of what the Associate in Risk Management. I mean that's really what that embodies. And there's other designations like CIC and CISR that kind of help maybe on the technical side of a policy and kind of with that fine print that I love to read. So that's why I don't have one of those designations. But from the ARM, it's that holistic, how do I dissect this and how do I make sure everything is covered that needs to be covered and that can be covered. So I think, and the great thing about Nebraska too is we have a pretty diverse state where I think Omaha and Lincoln, obviously you're seeing those communities really grow vertically, whereas out in central and western Nebraska, you're probably seeing those communities grow more horizontally and just getting wider and wider. And they're not going to run into the same risk that the other ones do. So there's some of that give and take where, hey, I live out in Ogallala, I'm not going to see some of those same risks that you're going to see unless they're actively going out and trying to find them, which then kind of push comes to shove. What are you wanting to do? Are you wanting to become an advisor, or are you content with maybe with what is in your own community and not going out there and finding it? So that's one thing we always run into with Nebraska is we're dealing with not one, not two, but kind of three different communities based on how our state is broken up.
I think it's important though to remember that, or we always say that you don't have to be the expert in everything to be the advisor, right? I mean, just go out and find somebody that you trust that can do that. Mm-hmm. Go find the aviation specialist or get on Big I's website to look for a program or whatever. But go find somebody that you can bring in to that client's circle that, you can still be the quarterback, you can still manage all the stuff you do. They're going to fit a specific need. And then you're still in that advisory role.
Oh, for sure.
You don't have to know it all. It'd be like bringing in an attorney to, analyze a contract. Like, you're never going to probably learn how to do that. No. But you can still advise the client to say, hey, go and, I trust this guy, go.
It's kind of like a broker at that point where when you're in the broker realm, you might not have all the solutions, but you know who to call. And that's kind of when those relationships kind of pop up again. It's like, hey, somebody brings this risk to you and you're like, hey, I can insure A, B, but part C, I mean, that's different. I can't help with that, but I know who can. And so even though there might be connecting you to somebody else, they're still kind of playing that quarterback position. And that's, honestly, I have a lot of people, that's what they reach out to me for, because they remember me from being like, oh, do you got a new venture? You got somebody with some loss history problems? How do I solve this? And not that we're going to be the ones that underwrite it and bind it for them, but we can connect them. And I think I consider that a value-added service that, hey, you call, email, text me. I might not have the answer, but I can find who does, and I will connect you to that person, which I think people appreciate. I hope they do.
Oh, they should. I mean, I think that goes back to that collaboration in the association. Not only it's great to go to the events, get to know people, do the networking and all of that for that reason, but also just being able to pick up the phone and call somebody at the association and say, hey, here's what I got. Do you guys have any help you can provide? Because there's also a lot of education, like not just classes, but education online on the website. There's Ask an Expert. Ask an Expert, yes. That's a great
virtual
tool.
University.
Yep.
And the nice thing about that, too, is you sometimes get not one response, not two, but you get 3 or 4, which is the beauty of insurance, which hopefully some of your listeners are picking up. There's a lot of ways to cut this apple up. I mean, it depends who you ask. It depends how you ask it. It depends when you're asking it. And you'll get these different responses. And I think that, once again, reemphasizes why you need somebody in your corner with you, because you might get a different answer depending on who you ask. So you need somebody that you can trust. And it's like, hey, Elliot, Ryan, they know me, they know my family, they know my assets. They're going to look out for what's best for me, rather than going and Googling an insurance question and being like, whoa, I didn't even know that. Oh, that. Now, do I need to go to a doctor now? Because I'm pretty sure I might have a disease at this point or something like that.
WebMD.
Yeah,
right? No. It's like I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express.
I block that from my wife because she loves to go into WebMD. So you got to watch out what you're reading on the internet.
That's right. We have a baby, and it's like Everything is. And the last thing is like, they could get a rash. They also might die.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? Like, just leave it at rash.
Cancer is very much in play right now. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What am I doing now?
Yeah.
It's risk management.
All the options, all the possible outcomes.
Gotta protect you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where a good insurance person was on there and be like, hey, you should probably just throw that on like everything because it could happen.
Well, that's what I feel like doctors are doing whenever they're like, okay, worst case scenario, this is what's going to happen, but this is most likely what you have right now. It's like, well, why'd you put the other thing in my mind, though? Do I need to worry about that? What are the chances? And they're like, no, you'll be fine, but it could happen.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great. Now I've just got something that I got to think about the whole rest of the day.
That's so true. Kind of positioning a little bit, I'm curious to get your thoughts at the state level, but then nationally, if the big guy has been talking about it, but just the mergers and acquisitions, M&A that's kind of been going on. I mean, around here, it's been crazy over the last couple of years.
Nebraska is on the map now.
What's that?
Nebraska is on the map now with mergers. Yeah. I think for a little while,
we kind of snuck.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, it's just Nebraska.
We're a flyover state."
Yeah, exactly. What could they have going on there? But I think the cat's out of the bag now because we, in the last year and a half, I can probably count at least 18 mergers and acquisitions that have happened. Just like
I guess with all the small.
Yeah, just so, and I mean it's not bad. It's not wrong. It's just the way of the world right now. But it does add a little different dynamic because I think people are now a little bit more sensitive to what's happening because I think just before that wasn't happening. But now in the last year, and I think the pandemic almost slowed more of it down than what was planning on taking place. And some of it's good organic growth and some of it's more of a national broker coming in and they're just plucking somebody and moving along. And so from our standpoint at the association, we're trying to figure out how we play a part, if any, in this. Do we have a role? Do people want us to have a role? Because we don't want to step on anybody's toes. I mean, it's free market. I mean, you do what you got to do. So we're paying attention, we're noticing it, but we are not proactively doing anything like that. And I don't know if our members want us to. Why just do another thing to do another thing unless there's something that our members are like, hey, we need help with this. What's this whole valuation? How do you value an agency? Well, once again, there's experts out there that can do that where we'd probably just point them down that road, or management consultants that come in and look at the hierarchy and how your workflows are doing and how it's going to jive with somebody else coming in and doing things like that. So I think it's happening all around the country. Big Eye nationally, Big Eye at the state associations has really not dipped too much into it, but we kind of got to just see how it plays out because there's only so many agencies. And I mean, I think there has to be a lot of agencies in order to provide all the different services, like our crop agencies and our P&C and ones that focus on large P&C and small and personal. I mean, so I think there's enough going on that will be okay, but it's just trying to figure out kind of the trend of, is this going to be, we should just expect every year 10 agencies are going to get bought and that's just how it's going to be till the end of time? Or is it really just kind of a flavor of the week? We're going to come in, snatch, and then kind of leave again. But fortunately, from what we've seen, the ones that have come in, they have left the agencies kind of intact for the most part, which I think that speaks to both sides. It speaks that there was a good agency there already. They were doing the right things already. Somebody came along and said, hey, I want to add that to my bushel over here. And it says a good thing about the companies coming in and actually doing that, acquiring, and that they have faith in those companies and they don't want to upturn the cart and anything like that. So, but there's no plan as of now because we're still we just got out of this whole pandemic of trying to figure out what we were supposed to do. Now we're kind of getting our feet back up underneath of us of what role, if any, do we really play in this. But fortunately right now, I think we're kind of okay.
Yeah. Well, I have this theory that, and who knows if the statistics support it or not, I'm sure Big Eye National tracks it, but like the number that are being purchased, but then the actual number of small agencies that are just starting because of, say, big national broker comes in and buys a local agency and they're like, I don't want anything to do with working for a multinational company.
Yep.
So they go out and they start their own or something like that. I have a feeling that's where a lot of it's going to get to, because that's just natural entrepreneurism.
Yeah, and that's a lot of risk advisors and insurance agents and producers and brokers. I mean, they have that knack of kind of that drive to want to kind of build something of their own, and we have noticed that. And there's a lot of agencies come from a lot of different places. I mean, we do have the ones that just break off an agency because they feel like it's their time. We do see the ones that there was a merger and somebody just didn't feel right, so they started their own one. We also have captive agents a lot of times that come from those other carriers that I won't give name recognition to right now, but they see the grass is greener on the other side because they're either unhappy, their things have gotten complacent, and they are limited in what they can offer, and they see the independent side as, hey, I can do that, I can do a little of this, I can specialize in that. And so we do see that, and luckily we are one of the first phone calls a lot of them reach out to for a couple different.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and that it goes back to my whole credibility that kind of originally I feel like what associations kind of provided historically, and so and that's why I said we're kind of fortunate that there is still that mentality out there, but maybe for a more established agency that's been around for a little while. I mean, they've survived that long without an association, so why did they need to join again unless you added a resource or a service that's like, got to have that right now. But that organic growth of new agencies starting up, we noticed it. I mean, it's I can't give you the statistics to back up your theory, but
it's just my theory.
I'm on your side now. That's all you got to know. I'm on your side.
Perfect. Kevin on the back. Well, I think we are at time, and it's crazy how fast it goes. But I enjoyed that. It's a little bit different of a conversation, but I don't think that a lot of people know about sometimes or see the value in or just understand what associations do. And so I was happy to get your perspective on some of that. Are you sure you were awake during that? Or
I'm here.
Oh, Ryan is here, everybody.
He drank his whole glass of water.
He did. He got the whole thing out. But no, thanks, man. That was good.
No, thank you for having me. And if we can ever be a resource for anybody or anyone, just let us know. We're happy to help.
Yeah, we'll definitely get your contact info on everything and share it out there. So.
Okay. Where can people subscribe to this podcast?
It's all over Spotify, Apple,
anywhere you get your podcasts.
Yep, it's all. The gal's got it on everything. It's on YouTube. Yep, the video.
Yes, and thank you to the man behind the camera and the microphone. He's the one that really makes us sound like we know what we're talking about.
It 100% is.
Someday I'll do a face reveal.
Not yet.
Just a flash.
Save that for 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. All right.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in to Getting Past the Premium. We are excited to continue breaking down barriers and finding solutions together. If you would like to reach out regarding anything you heard in today's episode, find links and contact info in the description. Until